for 3 years. Then I moved to Sydney for 4 years, and you take 7 away from 30 and you get 23. So that's how many years I've been at Northeastern.
At Northeastern for 23 years. That's several years.
It is.
Yes, it is. And you started, you say, in Columbus or Sydney?
Columbus.
Well, Suzanne had mentioned also something about she'd been in Columbus.
Right, so I started at the same
Okay.
in Columbus.
In Columbus. And what school did you teach?
Shady Lane Elementary, out on the east side of Columbus.
And does that school still exist, I assume?
Yes, yes. That's where I did my student teaching, and then I started teaching there after I graduated from Capital.
Another Capital graduate.
Right, right.
How'd you happen to choose Capital?
It was a Lutheran college, and I went to Buckeye Girls State, and I liked Capital, so I ended up going there.
Well, that worked out real nice. At your teaching in Columbus, can you think of some of the most interesting experiences that happened there? I'm sure your first year. What did you think?
It's been a long time ago. The lesson I remember that I learned there was I had a woman principal, and I remember being very irritated at this little guy, and she cautioned me to always remember to let the child know I was angry with what they did, not at the child themselves. And that's been a lesson I've tried to remember, that let the child know you're angry at their actions, not at the child themselves.
That's an impression that we all kind of want to remember, and it's something that you learned as well. So isn't it amazing all the lessons you've taught all your students?
Yeah, and then you learn something. You learn something from all the teachers you teach with and the principals that you work with.
That's true. And then you moved from there to Sydney, and what happened to Sydney?
Well, in Sydney, my biggest experience, I think, was I taught 5th grade, and they were going to need one less 5th grade teacher, so to stay in the building, I taught special ed, and that taught me a lot about working with individual differences and working on the self-concept of children who had low self-esteem. I learned a lot in those 2 years also. Good.
So you're kind of you sort of had some experience with mainstreaming students that we are presently doing, and what's your feeling about that?
Well, I think it's better for the children to be part of the group. When I was teaching special ed, I had my kids, and there was we did everything together, and I think it's better for them to socially. It's much harder on the teacher, and sometimes it's harder on the kids too. I think each case is unique, but I'm glad I had that experience. It helped me on down the road as we went into inclusion.
And you understand what it's like for those students to be more accepted in society too, and it makes a difference.
They're going to have to live in the world with everybody. So
that's true, and that's why we're doing that. So then you came to Bell Fountain, and it was your first teaching experience at Northeastern?
Yeah, I started at Northeastern in 4th grade and taught a couple years in 4th grade, and then we had Michelle, and so I had 1 year off, and then they called and said, would you like a half-time job teaching reading? And I went, yes, I'd love a half-time job teaching reading. And so while she was little, I was fortunate enough to teach just in the mornings, and that was another learning experience, teaching reading. Gave me a lot of background in areas that I hadn't done before, because that was with younger children, and before that time I'd always taught the older children.
So you've always been in this building?
Yes, yes.
And how many different grade levels have you taught?
In this building I've taught the 4th grade and the Chapter 1 reading, and then 2nd grade for 17 years, and then 1st grade 1 year.
Okay, well, you moved around a little bit then, and they're all different, I'm sure. But which one did you seem to enjoy the best?
I couldn't say. Each one has each grade level has its advantages and disadvantages, and kids are kids. I think kids at the high school are kids too, and little kids are kids, and kids are kids.
Okay. That's the way it goes, isn't it? Yeah. Over all your years, I'm sure you've had some experiences that you've cherished, and some that we have not cherished, possibly. Name me some of the ones that were kind of interesting, even though they may not have been real fun, but some interesting experiences you might have had.
I was trying to think of that. I was afraid you were going to ask me that, and the a lot of the things that stick out in my mind are funny things. I guess it's things that you laugh about that help you get through some of the things that aren't so laughable. But children say many funny things. I remember that there was a little child who went down to see Diane Rice, the speech therapist, and
Now, this was at Northeastern.
this was at Northeastern. She was telling us, and that this was one of my children, and she was laughing because she said, "Mrs. Bixler, you weren't there yesterday," and your child came down and said, "Miss Rice, Miss Bixler isn't there today. We have a prostitute instead."
Well, that's interesting. Yes, okay. Well, that's an interesting experience. How about some things? Maybe it's someone that it's kind of a touching experience that you remember. Do you remember anything that's maybe kind of unusual?
I remember just a couple years ago, a boy came back to see me, and what's interesting is I have very little recollection of this young man, but he came all the way from I think it was Kentucky that he had moved to, and was telling me all the things he remembered, and I have very little recollection of it. So I think what's interesting is that sometimes you don't know who you're touching, or the depth that, the impression you're making. They don't remember the same things you do, and you don't remember the same things you do. Each experience is unique to the child.
So, as they say in that famous line, the teacher has no idea what lives they're going to touch and in which way, right? Makes a big difference.
You don't know who. Sometimes kids will remind me of things, and I'll think, I don't even remember that, and then I conversely can remind them of things that they did when they were little, and of course they don't remember. That's when you have them when they're so little. They by the time they get to high school, they remember you, but they don't remember too much specific.
That's true. That's true. So you have a family, and tell us a little bit about your family.
Max and I have one daughter. Max is a teacher at the high school, and we have one daughter, Michelle, who's getting married July 1st, and who will be going to Case Western this fall to pursue a doctorate in human genetics, we hope.
Well, that's exciting. Yeah, so you get a chance to go out and visit her.
Right, that's one thing that I'm looking forward to in retirement, is maybe going up to Cleveland and spending some time. I don't know Cleveland, so this will be a good time to
Yeah, sure.
see some new sights.
Great. Okay. That's some of your plans for retirement. What are some of the other things you plan on doing? You have some hobbies and things that you do?
I like to make quilts, and I like to sew. My retirement present to me from me were a new sewing machine and a new serger, so I'm anxious to try those out. And I have a brother and sister and a nephew and niece in New Philadelphia who I have not gotten to spend much time with. I'd like to go over there. Their kids are in high school, and I'd like to have the opportunity to go listen to them play in concerts and do all kinds of neat things that high school kids do. I may substitute some, because I don't think I can cut this off without any contact with my friends and the kids. I don't think I'm quite ready, so I may do some subbing. I thought maybe I could hold up my little sign on this interview and say "work wanted." So if somebody has a job they think I'd be good at, just give me a call. I'm not averse to working, so.
Good. Well, that's to everybody in Bellefontaine. There's a little plug that we put in there. Good. So what would you say to the people of Bellefontaine about the teaching profession?
I would say that there are many rewards, but there are many challenges. And if people say, is it harder than when you started? Most definitely it's harder than when I started. It's fun to watch the enthusiasm we've got some new staff here. That's one of the joys of this year, is watching the new staff with the enthusiasm. We've got some good new teachers. Support them, back them up, parents. Don't criticize them.
That's right.
It's a hard job.
It's quite a few over the years that I've noticed. There's just been so many more things added to the curriculum, and that we're expected to do, and society has changed so much, and that's why that's happened, right?
It is not an easy job. Even though we get the summers off, it is not an easy job.
Right. We need the R&R in the summer, don't we?
Yes, yes, we certainly do.
Great. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Hey, it does, doesn't it? Hey, great. It's been fun talking to you, and have a happy retirement. And I'm sure people are going to miss you around here.
I will miss them.
Okay. Thank you. Phyllis.